need to live a comfortable life. But not all of us see money in the same way. So where do we get these attitudes about money? Do our racial and ethnic backgrounds affect the way we look at money?
Since ethnic background affects our life experiences, it's hard to say that it does not affect how we spend and what we think about spending and saving.
Let's look at the numbers. According to a recent study, Black and Hispanic consumers spend a higher percentage of their income on housing, food, and clothes than whites. Yet white consumers spent a higher portion of their income on health care and entertainment.
African American families tend to be younger and more likely to have children at home, so they will spend more on apparel, on footwear, the kinds of things that you would spend when you have young children at home.
In 1998, blacks spent half or less of what whites spent buying alcoholic beverages, reading materials, small appliances, and gifts. They also spent less on buying vehicles, televisions, radios, and sound equipment.
I think there is a stereotype that African Americans spend much of their money on clothes, material things, rings, jewelry, cars, that kind of thing, when in fact, according to a study that came out about 6 or 7 months ago, it found that African Americans spend a lot of their disposable income helping others.
It's not just spending, there are also differences in the way we save our money.
African Americans do think about money differently. They don't have as long of a tradition in investing, in perhaps saving money at the rate of white Americans.
Although more African Americans are investing today, they haven't caught up. Only 64% of them are investing in the stock market, and this compares to 82% of their white counterparts. Welcome to MoneyWise. Joining us this week are Charles Gonzalez, a financial planner and the author of Yes You Can, Si Se Puede, Every Latino's Guide to Building Family Wealth, and Jesse Brown, also a financial planner and author of Investing in the Dream, Personal Wealth Building Strategies for African Americans in Search of Financial Freedom. I want both of you to tell me, does race really affect the way people are managing money, Charles?
Well, I believe, with respect to the Hispanic or Latino community, that it has a great influence on the reality of their ability to do that today. History, culture, but mainly the gap in information and knowledge as a result of history and cultural influences has impacted Latinos' ability and use, for example, of investment products, which we know so many people are using nowadays.
Jesse?
I agree. It's a matter of knowledge and trust. Unfortunately, that whole business about knowledge, the financial service community has got to take a part of the blame. You see, for far too long, the financial service community has ignored the African American and Latino community, thinking of the old adage that all poor people are black and all black people are poor. Well, that's not true at all. But now the financial service community are seeking out funds from the minority communities, and I think that it's now up to the minority communities themselves to gain that knowledge by purchasing our books and going online and reading magazines and all the things that are now available. Of course, there's always that elusive business about trust as well. Many people say that, why should I give my money to that system that has been on us for so long? But we got to get over that, because the financial service community, to me, is the road and the channel to success in today's marketplace.
I think Charles want to get in.
Again, the whole issue of information and the responsibility of our own communities to take the lead on this is very, very important. For example, in the Latino community, the Spanish-speaking audience especially has very little access to this type of information, and it's hard to build trust if you don't even have the information. The Spanish-language television stations, for example, develop most of their ratings and their money from the telenovelas, which are Spanish soap operas that they import from Latin America. There are no equivalents of CNBC or this show, for example, targeting Spanish speakers. So I think there's a real need, and I'm working with some of the Spanish media and try to get more books. I mean, Jesse just told me he wants to get his book in Spanish to follow on mine, which is the only book in Spanish today, which is ridiculous.
Well, let's talk about that, because there's some people would even question why there's a need for both of your books. I mean, targeted to
I got
a
that a
specific
lot,
area.
that's for sure.
Well, how did you respond to that response?
Well, I responded to the fact by saying that the Latino community, which is the fastest growing community in the United States, is going to be the driving force of much of the economic vitality of this country in the 21st century as we go from 12, 13% to 20, 25% of the population. America as a whole depends on the success of that community. They need to be financially empowered, have the information to make these sound decisions.
Jesse, how do you respond to the question?
Well, you know, niche marketing has always been the way to do business in America. So the fact that we have addressed our business towards African Americans or Latinos should not be considered strange in any way. Matter of fact, what we're doing is we're enhancing the marketplace, and many major financial service firms understand that very clearly.
But see, now, Jesse, some people would question, is this a clever marketing tool, or does both your constituents really need this information packaged in a certain way?
Well, I think they do, because, you know, money is very personal.
Right.
You know, it's probably one of the most personal things that you can kind of come up with. And when you think of that, people want a relationship with their financial advisor, with their financial institution. They want to know where their money is going and what their money is doing. And on top of that, they need growth. Unfortunately, everyone knows someone, if not themselves, who has somehow put away money into a coffee can, or buried it in their backyard, or saving it for a rainy day, I guess is the old expression. But too many people don't understand the importance of inflation on that particular amount of money.
Hey, Charles?
Absolutely. For example, in my own clientele and working with Hispanics of all types, whether they're recent immigrants or second or third generation, I've seen many of my clients very successful putting most of their assets, for example, into real estate, which is a traditional road or strategy pursued by immigrants. For example, it's real property. There's safety there. But clearly we understand that the markets today are beyond our control, and we need to have a little more diversification. Of course, the real estate market isn't growing as fast as, for example, the equity market.
Jesse, I've got a client right now, a lady who's 65 years old. She'd worked all her life, paid off her house, and she wanted to get $5,000 off of that house to send her daughter, or granddaughter rather, to college. She went to the banker. You know what the banker said? Banker says, well, ma'am, if you could just kind of like tell me where you work and we can check your credit report. She said, look, I'm retired. I don't have a job. I don't have any credit. He said, look, we don't care about your house. We care about your credit ability, your ability to repay. So since we can't see that, we're not going to give you the money.
Or worse, because now there's a product called reverse mortgages,
right,
which are targeting these very people because they don't qualify for a mortgage. But now what you're doing is sucking the equity out of these houses and then impact the ability to pass that property on to their family.
But I think we don't want our audience to miss the point. Basically, both African Americans and Hispanics have been using real estate because it's something they're used to.
Absolutely.
Something that they believe in. It's been taught to them culturally. You want to own land.
And that's why it's so important that people understand the equity marketplace. That's why I talk about mutual funds so much, because you need diversification and professional management to provide wealth.
But we're going to come back later and talk about the stock market. There's some other suggestions for our audience. But right now, let's take a look at two families and find out how their view of money has been impacted by their culture.